The next question comes from a viewer who lives with her elderly mother and they're having a lot of family problems. You know, it's not so simple living with somebody who's not part of your immediate family, but is a parent or a spouse, and it can cause a lot of problems. Shalom Rabbi, I would like to have some help about my family. I love and admire my husband. His mom came to live with us. She has emphysema. She doesn't do anything every day, just reading books and watching movies on her iPad. I propose many times to go out for a walk or do something, but it's not the point. She always says no. My husband and I don't have any more real family time. She always has something to say or scream at my kids. My oldest girls say, often to me, a grandmother should be fun and visit. I have 5 kids, Baruch Hashem, but there's a lot of resentment in my house. I'm at a point I don't want to talk to her. She gets on my nerves. I don't say anything to her, or she will talk to my husband and we'll have a fight. He even told me if I'm not nice to his mother, he will divorce me. She's a nice lady, but she brings a lot of resentment. In the beginning, she didn't want me to have a cleaning lady. She was not comfortable, so I said to my husband to do her laundry and errands. So now I have a cleaning lady just for Friday morning. When I start to talk to my husband about any situation, he gets mad, and I try to stop the conversation in his favor to have shalom bayit. She's a nice lady, but not a loving grandma. I would like to have a better relationship with her and have back my happy family. Please, I really need your help. If you get a chance to read it. I always tell my husband to go to a therapist together, but he's too busy with work and his mom and has a lot of stress. Dear viewer, I understand the difficulty in your family. It's hard enough to have a healthy and happy marriage with one spouse and children, but much harder when you have somebody else meddling in your business. And there's no real easy answers here. You need to set a boundary with your mother. A boundary means that certain things are allowed and certain things aren't allowed. I'm sure there's a lot of pain. If your mother-in-law came to live with you, it's probably because her husband had died, perhaps she has some physical illness, or she's just suffering with old age problems, and therefore she needs a lot more immediate care. But this poses a problem for your family because she's acting inappropriately. She's breaking certain sacred bounds within the family, and she's also causing a lot of stress between you and your husband, and that is not a good thing at all. I would suggest that you discuss setting boundaries with her. These are the certain roles she should play in the family, and these are things which are difficult for her. If you're able to do so, I would sit down with her and have a meeting. Do it at the right time, when she's rested, when she's feeling good. Perhaps you take her out for something to eat and talk to her then, but have a discussion. And I suggest you to start the discussion by sharing appreciation. You can say to her, Mom, listen, I love having you in our home. It's so special to me spending time with you, and I'm so glad you could help raise our children with us. But I want to tell you there's some things which are difficult for me. I want you to really express some of the difficulties without criticizing her. For example, it's important that you set the rules in your family, especially when it comes to cleaning ladies, or more importantly, when it comes to disciplining your children. These are sacred things between a mother and her child or her children, or a mother and her husband. These are things which other people can't really get involved with. And that you're happy to have her as part of the family, but you're asking her to make some changes in order to live with you more comfortably and have a happier life together. I think you really need to set boundaries with your mother-in-law and talk to her about what's hard for you. Now, of course, she might take this harshly. She'll probably deny it and say, oh, I didn't mean to do that, or I was just trying to be helpful with the kids. I saw they were in trouble. But the truth is you can say, Mom, thank you so much for trying. But I'm sure like when we grew up, perhaps her mother wasn't living with her. It's hard to have a mother live with you, and it's hard having her right now in your home. So if she wants to stay with you in a comfortable way, here are the things she can do. Number 1, do not do any discipline of the children, and do not talk about the functioning of the home. These are very sacred things that a mother or a wife wants to decide on her own with her husband. And number 2, do not get involved in any issues between you and your husband. These are very important boundaries I think you need to set with her. I'm not saying it's going to be an easy discussion. In fact, she may deny or even disagree with you. Nonetheless, it's important for you to stand up and set a boundary Don't forget, she really needs you. She has nowhere to go. And therefore, if you set a boundary, she may be more apt to listening to you, but it's important that you begin the process. And it might be painful for you as well. It's not easy setting a boundary. I also suggest you first have a meeting with your husband to discuss setting boundaries. The two of you need to be a team together. You guys come first. In fact, I'd like you to draw an imaginary circle around you and your husband. You guys are the most important unit in the home. You have to have shalom bayis. You have to have a lot of love and respect for another. Inside that circle, then go your children. And thirdly, your mother-in-law. In that order first. When you and your husband are on the same page, then you can have a more effective meeting with your mother-in-law as well. But if that doesn't work, it may be necessary to get a third party involved. I suggest you find a marriage therapist, or a good psychologist, or even a very sensitive rabbi to have a discussion all together to discuss and put on the table some of the issues you're actually having, and to see if this third person has some good advice for you. Perhaps your mother-in-law will be more apt to listen to them as opposed to you. Either way, it's important to start setting boundaries, whether you do it alone or with somebody else, and I believe you'll create a lot more happiness in this home for both you and your mother-in-law. Welcome to this new series on Hidabrut called Marriage Matters. My name is Rabbi Daniel Schonbuch, and I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist based in New York and around the world via Skype. On this important series, I will be answering your questions you have about marriage, relationships, dating, parenting, and about any issue dealing with family and relationships. But more than what I have to say, I want to hear what you have to say. So please email to this address and send in your questions, and I'll try to answer as many questions on this new show.